dialogue with the Herald and Nelson Mandela University, and a special partnership with the Nelson Mandela Foundation, which we are particularly excited about. My name is Rochelle de Kock. I'm editor of the Herald newspaper and a proud partner for about 11 years of the with the Nelson Mandela University doing community dialogues. Mine is just to welcome you, and I've been given a strict 3 minutes, so I'm hoping to use 2 minutes and 59 seconds of those just to say a few words. But I think it's such an important discussion that will be held today. Reflections on Mandela Month and what was achieved. The theme this year was do what you can with what you have where you are. And as I sat and thought about Mandela Day, Mandela Month, and as someone who works in the newspaper industry, there's often this argument that, you know, Mandela Day has become so commercialized, and it's an opportunity for corporates to really just show off and get photo opportunities and so on. And I thought about it, and for me, it's, yes, that's true to an extent, and trust me, we get flooded with requests for photographs and attending events in the week of Mandela Day. But ultimately, the way I choose to look at it is that even if corporates or citizens are doing 67 minutes of good, whether or not it's coming from a good place or a clean heart, ultimately objective is achieved, right? And, you know, good is being done out there. And I just want to read something because it's a scripture that kept popping in my head, and I'm not going to give a sermon today because I know I'm speaking to academics. But it's a scripture that really just kept popping up in my head, and it's from 2 Peter, and it says, "Consider what sort of people you ought to be in holy acts of conduct and deeds of godly devotion." And I think that is exactly what Mandela Day, to me, stands for. It's doing pockets of acts of holy goodness and good deeds, and I'm really hoping that some of that will shine through today in the discussions that are taking place. So I hope I haven't gone over my 3 minutes. So before I come off the podium, I'd like to just call up Professor Andre Kiet, who will be the facilitator today. I hope you will enjoy a really fruitful discussion with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Rochelle, and a hearty good afternoon to everybody here. Thanks for coming. And of course, you know, if I make the introductory remarks, you know, I will also lose, you know, some of my 4 minutes being given to get through all, you know, some of the long bio notes that have been shared with me here. So our contributors for today, the first one will be Prof. Herald van Grenen, who will speak about the Transect Walk Dialogue Mvezo. Prof. van Grenen is a distinguished professor and multidisciplinary researcher and innovator. She leads the Center for Community Technologies at Nelson Mandela University that develops ICT solutions for Africa by Africans in Africa. Prof. van Grenen is recognized as one of the handful of international innovation experts for developing countries and one of the leading academics in advancing the fourth industrial revolution in education. What distinguishes Prof. van Grenen is a full participatory approach to the research and development of technology that involves the community every step of the way. She is affectionately known as the people's professor. So the people should know the professor, isn't it? For bringing smart technologies to the person on the street. Our second speaker, the second Transect Walk Dialogue, which took place in Zweden, Mr. Mpumzi Mofu, Zweden Development Forum Chairperson. Mpumzi Mofu, an activist and a Zweden community leader, also known as Roja, who is part of the broad Zweden Community Development Program, which aims to address the socio-economic challenges of the communities. On July 2021, he started the Zweden Development Program, which is supported by the Nelson Mandela University Hubs of Convergence. Actually a beautiful, beautiful project coming through there. Roja is part of many community initiatives that he is involved with and has recently started community gardens working together with community policing forums by patrolling the streets. He is also actively involved in the community sports and arts program, which aims to keep the youth off the streets as he endeavors to bring change to the Zwede community. Oh, I forgot. Please give him a hand, and so a hand to Prof. Herald as well. Thank you so much for that. The next Transect Walk dialogue on human settlements, which is one of the others that I've also attended, is Yonela Mashalaba, who is a Bachelor of Human Settlements graduate and MSc candidate for construction management, with his research focus being on dry sanitation technologies as alternative sanitation solutions for water-scarce communities. Mr. Mashalaba is a short learning program coordinating assistant for the Department of Building and part-time lecturer for the Bachelor of Human Settlements Developments at NMU. Please give him a hand. Thank you so much for that. Then for Transect Walk, four that we had in Kala, Mr. Jabu Bam from our university, Center for Community Schools. Mr. Bam is a CCS programs coordinator who has a passion for education and community development. He has a wide range of abilities in program development, planning, implementation, and management. From 2014 till 2016, he worked as a project administrator before moving into his current role. Mr. Bam was actually actively involved in the education and NPO sector for 6 years prior to joining CCS in 2014. During that time, he held a number of positions, including those of board member and financial controller for UNAKU, a youth-driven community-based organization that worked to improve literacy in township schools and volunteer fundraising activities for Shislangule AIDS and Networking Organization, which cared for elderly and young people in Motherwell who was affected and infected by HIV/AIDS. He is a student at Nelson Mandela University Economics, awaiting his final year results. Please, a warm welcome to Jabu. Then we have, in the same Transect Walk dialogue, Kala, Ms. Bavuma Liabona Poetswarello, who is a Kala Village Senior Secondary School grade 12 learner. Ms. Bavuma Poetswarello is born and bred in Kala in a small village, Upper Lufuta. She did a primary education in the Kala community junior secondary school and is currently a grade 12 learner at Kala Village Senior Secondary School, where she is the first female president of the LRC. Ms. Poetswarello is interested in law and politics. Please, a warm hand for Bavuma. I'm almost there, okay. Then we have the Transect Walk dialogue, Mugesikkel. And here we have Mr. Fatswa Chizu from Inseka Yokwa Belana Ngulwaze, literacy facilitator. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us as well. She's going to get 2 rounds of applause because you jumped the gun, okay? Tafatswa, known as Tafi, is a community-based literacy worker originally from Zimbabwe and now residing in Kveja. She completed a project management course and as an unemployed advocate of change is involved in various projects, amongst which include youth and community development work, collaborating with the Nelson Mandela University Faculty of Education in establishing and running literacy clubs in schools, and the Nelson Mandela Metro, as well as support for postgraduate community-based projects. A founding member of the literacy program called Insika Yokwabalena Ngulwazi, loosely translated means a pillar to share knowledge. One of its main objectives is to enhance human dignity by providing effective, efficient, organic literacy programs dedicated to the fundamental values of accountability, respect and equality through community emancipation and development practices. IYN sees literacy development as an essential vehicle for community upliftment and development. The approach is a fun way to learn by engaging societal issues impacting learning through these entertaining forms of cooperative learning. IYN endeavors to form solidarity in and amongst communities. Please, a great hand there for Tafi. Right, and then we are now at the last one, Mr. Mzi Kolo Sume from Makukanye Rural and Land Movement, the chairperson. He has been an activist since high school, former leader of COSA's Nelson Mandela region, a former deputy chairperson of YASA in the Eastern Cape province. Mzi is the founder of Zonke Community Library and also served a second term as regional executive chairperson of Mukanya. Please give a great hand to Mzi, okay? Thank you so much for this, colleagues. So it is now my pleasure to invite the People's Professor to make a contribution. Please give it.
Thank you very much, Andre, and Molweni Nonke. Good afternoon, everybody. So, do what you can with what you have where you are. That is what we started this year's Mandela Day journey with. As was said, I was involved in the celebrations at Mvezo. I think it's only fitting that the kickoff of our Mandela Month activities started in Mvezo. And I will get to why in a moment. I have to just first acknowledge our partners that were involved in the event at Mvezo. Of course, the Royal House of Mandela, under the leadership of Nkosi Mandela. The Traditional Council of Mvezo, under the leadership of Umama Nolusapo Mandela. And then the Nelson Mandela Foundation, who was represented by Professor Vern Harris on the day. The Green Development Foundation, represented by Tabelo Makhwale. And then the members of the Mvezo community, and probably some of the most important participants on the day, some of the learners and the children of the community in Mvezo. So what did we do in Mvezo, other than think about what we were doing there? We started by planting trees. Our focus was on planting fruit and indigenous trees. So very, very specifically looking at trees that would survive out in Mvezo. For those of you who've not been there before, it is in deep rural Eastern Cape. The road to get there is quite challenging, and after the rain and the floods in the last while, there's quite a bit of soil erosion, etc. So this sets the scene for an ideal research environment, but also an ideal learning environment. So if we were to focus on what we did in Mvezo, and since we're talking about communities and things like that, I thought we should pack a skaftan when we engage with the respective communities and the stakeholders. And let's look at what do we put into the skaftan. So before I came here, I mentioned to one of my colleagues that I am going to speak about a skaftan, and she looked at me and she said, "Hey, Prof, you're such a rebel. Will people even know what a skaftan is?" I said, well, if they don't, then they need to find out. So I'm not going to tell you what a skaftan is. If you don't know, then you need to go and Google it and find out. But in our skaftan from Mvezo, I want to put the first thing and say that we should not journey on our own. You know, we have the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Now, I want to say it takes a collaborative journey to respond to this call for action. Do what you can with what you have where you are. Not journey on our own. Secondly, it is important that we should not just co-create relative solutions with our communities, but also those of us who come from urban areas and other parts should learn from our communities and take away the learnings from those communities and see whether what they have achieved in those communities cannot help in our own environment where we are. So, we need to say, why do we say that? Think about it for a moment. What is the significance of Mvezo? Why did I say it was important that we start there? How come one of the greatest statesmen of our time managed to grow up in this tiny village in the middle of nowhere and achieve what he achieved? Small village in deep rural Eastern Cape. What made that difference? One of the reasons that made that difference is that we have a very rich history of indigenous knowledge. And I think it is our responsibility as the current generation to lead the younger generations to learn from the past, but to also shape the future. And before starting here, we had a long discussion about this, and I'm sure some of my colleagues are going to return to that point. So what does the future hold for the Mvezo community post this event? We planted the first trees in the community. Why trees? Trees are symbolic of hope, of growth, of wisdom. That was the first step. The next step will now be to establish the Golihlahla Orchid in partnership with our stakeholders. And the reason we're doing that is to cultivate not only a love for nature, but to create a space for entrepreneurial activities in the community of Mvezo, to create sustainable food sources, and most importantly, a future for the youth of Mvezo. Often, we've just finished a career exhibition in that part of the world. When you ask learners, what is it that you want to become? They say a lawyer, a nurse, a teacher. The aim of what we have done now is to open up a whole new world of science to the learners in that space. So perhaps our future agricultural scientists will hail from Mvezo because they would have seen the trees grow. So if we say, considering that we should do what we can with what we have, where we are, we will nurture an orchid of fruit trees that will provide nourishment for the community, whilst instilling hope and creating opportunities for the next generation. Our final piece in the Skaftan is the message, do not forget where you come from. And it is not an option to think whether you should do something, just do it. Thank you very much.
Molweni, ninjani? Okay, siyaphila. Igama lam ndinguMphumzi Mofu. My name is Mphumzi Mofu, but I'm usually called by Roger. This is not the name I was given by my parents. I got the name from the streets. I'm used to community meetings without cameras. I am the chairperson of the Youth Development Forum. Youth Development Forum we founded with some of my colleagues who are here, 2021, on the 28th of July, trying to address the socio-economic problems of the Zude area. What inspired the formation of Youth Development Forum? I just thought I have to pass on two periods, the period of the 50s and the period of the 80s. In the 50s, there was Mandela Plan. It was named M Plan. I think it was named after Mandela, because Mandela was the leader of the campaign, where the aim of the campaign was the communities to organize themselves and address their social, economic problems. Then the campaign was called the AM Plan. It was like a government of the communities. Communities must govern themselves and isolate the regime and determine the communities that they want and the development that they want in their areas. That campaign ran through the 50s and it collapsed in the 60s because of a repression. Some of the leaders that were leading the campaign, like our icon, Nelson Mandela, was sent to prison and others went to exile. The campaign was revived in the 80s, but it was decided not to be called a Mandela Plan because it was dangerous. It will be dangerous to call it Mandela Plan. Rather, let's rename it as street committees and area committees. That was government by the communities. That is the era when I grew up. So when we started, is that we were inspired by those two periods because we saw in our communities no more development. Young people are unemployed, there's poverty, they are involved in criminal activities, in drugs, substance abuse. So we decided to collect all people who are activists, who are involved in sports, arts and culture, and our community who are doing different things, and found this with the development forum and challenge socio-economic programs. In line with the theme of the 2022 Mandela Day, do what you can with what you have where you are. For the Mandela Day, as we were the host, that it was held in Zwide, where we were born in our area. We are proud of that, and the community embraced it. Is very happy about the event. The main focus for that day was the support for e-community gardens and planting of fruit trees and indigenous trees. We have started 2 community gardens in that area, and we have supported 15 household gardens and more. Yeah. Let me finish by saying, after we have started that, the communities in other areas are calling us. They were under pressure. More people need support to start with household gardens and community gardens. Yeah, thank you very much.
Molweni. Good morning. Is it still morning? Afternoon, sorry. Igama lam nguYonela Mashalaba, affectionately known as MASH by my much more cooler colleagues. And when I say cooler, I mean cooler than me. First of all, I want to take this opportunity to apologize for my boss, Prof. Stegula Mbanga, who could not make it today. He is tied up in other programs, one of them also seeking to unlock opportunities for the Bachelor of Human Settlements graduates. So I just needed to just apologize for that. The theme that we were asked to talk on was do what you can with what you have where you are. Do what you can with what you have where you are. Pumzi, this reminds me of Uvukuzenzele in some way. These are very quite catchy themes, Prof, which are intended to catalyze the social justice where people live. Often these phrases target to propel the disadvantaged into action, which I fully agree with. However, I also have a question on whether are we also speaking with the same language to those who have the power to change things. We need to understand that social justice is a collective responsibility. It's not just a preaching exercise that comes from those who have influence, preaching down to those who barely have anything to start off with. Therefore, it is not enough to just preach in the periphery. Those who have influence and power also need to do more by working together with communities, using their power and the influence that they have where they are to unlock potential for our people. This is why the Nelson Mandela University, Habitat for Humanity, and Nelson Mandela Foundation's collaborative efforts are very important. Access to shelter is a human right, and the achievement therefore requires social justice advocacy. The number of people living in informal settlements housing reflects the deficiencies in successful human rights interventions, plans, and programs in South Africa. These inadequacies include ineffective administrative processes that are undertaken for rebuilding and upgrading of informal settlements. In the absence of sufficient action, the number of informal settlements expand on a frequent basis, with houses built from makeshift materials on unlawful occupied land in a development process that fails to allow predetermined national building regulation and urban planning authorization, and thus does not offer any security of tenure for the inhabitants. So again, the Nelson Mandela University, Habitat for Humanity, and the Nelson Mandela Foundation have shared interest to unlock the socio-economic potential of our communities through the provision of sustainable human settlements. And that was the reason why we took the transit walk number 4 in Visteris or Kholihlahla informal settlements. So one of our biggest lessons there, Prof. Geert, was that communities are one of the most valuable stakeholders. It is possible to work with communities in interventions aimed at changing their situations. Time and energy must be invested by stakeholders in engaging communities and allowing them to define their role in co-creating spaces in which they live in. I want to agree with Prof. of the People that government agencies and external organizations should be mindful and sensitive to the ways of living communities as they seek to channel development and interventions. So we should actually take cognizance of what communities are actually already doing. Rather, external organizations should seek to harness the local knowledge to propel planned development interventions. For example, a lady told us of a very sensitive story of how Kholihlahla was actually established. And those are the stories that we actually need to take cognizance and actually move from. The communities have sentimental attachment to the physical spaces in which they live in, despite the conditions of those sites. These spaces have histories that need to be captured. Informal settlement upgrading programs, especially the relocation program, should be sensitive to these communities and to realize cohesion. So perhaps when we're looking at ideas, okay, thank you so much. Okay. We just when we are actually focusing on future projects, perhaps we should also take in cognizance that the issue of Ugogo Bidiwe, he who turned 100 in that informal settlement, is still staying in a shack. So in cases, these are cases that warrant our urgent attention. And surely Ugogo Bidiwe should not be expected to do with what she has, where she has. It should be our responsibility. Thank you very much.
Molweni. Ninjani? They right? Right. Igama lami nguJabu Bam. I'm from CCS Center for the Community Schools under the Faculty of Education. We are based at Missionville campus. Our TWD was TWD4 in Kala. Stakeholders that were involved in Kala, it was Nelson Mandela Foundation, Nelson Mandela University, CCS, Food Systems Engagement Office, Green Development Foundation, Ikamvelihle Development Trust, Department of Education, our schools, we call the schools that we work with Sakingomso program, which is Kala Village, Matandwa, Ndondo, and Kuwata Primary. And then the Krisani District, local municipality, Sakisizwe, EPW, disaster management, and water and sanitation, and the agriculture department. Traditional leaders of the community and the community members, those are the stakeholders that assisted us in implementing this TWD. Do what you can with what you have, where you are. The day was about tree planting. We are planting 3 trees per school, which it was a citrus tree, lemon, and orange. Besides that, what was outstanding about the day, or what I can reflect on, is the speech by Usbonda. I'm not sure what is Usbonda English. There was a councillor, the councillor was there. Headsman, again wasn't from this. Headsman of the village, Kala Reserve. Headman. Lonely and those about. Yeah, that one. The man God of her. Yes. So the Dondon man was the person. The Dondon man was the person who that I can reflect on, because he conceptualized this in terms of how he grew up. We were there for trees, but his story changed a bit, because we said, do what you can with what you have and where you are. He's been in Ngala for the rest of his life. He was gifted 2 sheep by the neighbor. Today he's got more than 150. So he generated his source. 1 minute. He generated his wealth through what he had. So we tend to forget what we have and try to focus on what we are expected to be given. So that's what stood out for me on that day. And the expertise that we got from the guy from agriculture, who was also from Kala, Mr. Malkhas, we did not bring anyone from anywhere to assist us in planting the trees and teaching people on how to take care of the trees, but it was someone from Ekala, being assisted by a teacher from Ekala village, Chichili. So they were giving their expertise, they were sharing their experience, their knowledge. So they have all the resources they need. And then ideas for the future. We planted trees in Kala. The first idea is how do we maintain the trees that we left in Kala? On Sunday we're going to Kala. The first question will be, what do we do from here? Another idea that we need to come up with is continued support to create the synergy between the stakeholders that are involved. We already have a relationship with stakeholders in Kala, but we are going to strengthen the relationship by including other stakeholders that were not part of the relationship or the partnership between Ikamvelihle Development Trust and the university. And then lastly, so we need to have to build active partnerships with the communities, because communities, they do have solutions to of their challenges. They know how to come up with solutions. We must not impose to our communities. Everything we need, it is there. So they are able to do what they njalo njalo.
So we will be having the video from Dabuma.
Okay. This is Liabona Bavuma. She is the RCL chairperson at Ikala village. She was part of the TW, so she'll be voicing out what the learners feel or think about. Yeah. About that.
By introducing myself, I go by Bavuma Iabone, and I'm a grade 12 student at Kala Village Senior Secondary School. I should acknowledge the Nelson Mandela University, the Nelson Mandela Foundation, Sakisi's municipality, the traditional leaders and schools that were involved in the program. The program came at a time when Kala was at its downfall. 75% of community members had abandoned gardening. While trees are scarce around Kala area, the few existing forests are being depleted for firewood. This has caused deforestation, which is an environmental health hazard. Through the tree planting day of the 21st of July, it has dawned in the minds of the community of Ghana. People can now do what they can with what they have and where they are. Emphasis on market gardening emerged as the best option for our community to foster new doors. Now, we know that tree planting is not only about harvesting, it is about starting afresh, new beginnings, and rebirth. A start of something new that will benefit even the future generations. Expanding the program to all parts of the country means involving other provinces, conversating with schools, municipalities, and leaders to make the country a better place. Let's make this a South African thing. Let 365 days be a Mandela Day. More than 5 million trees planted each year, doing what we can with what we have, where
Good afternoon, everyone. And just what I didn't want to happen is happening. I'm feeling like a hot flush, due to nerves. And that is exactly where the danger is. Um, Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Tafi Chizu, formerly Tafadzwa Chizu. A co-founder of Insika Yokwabelana Ngolwazi, loosely translated a pillar to share knowledge. So we're a literacy organization that is community-based. So just a little bit that I need to explain about our literacy organization. It's not literacy language-based, but it's literacy knowledge-based. We're sharing knowledge, indigenous knowledge, whatever knowledge that comes through, we share it out. So for our transit walk, we went to Mogessikkel. So Mogessikkel is a little community on the side of Utnik. It's an informal settlement, and wow. So it was made possible by the Nelson Mandela University, the Nelson Mandela Foundation, Ikala Trust, and obviously yours truly, What we saw and experienced in Mogessikkel is completely different to what we see in our everyday lives as literacy workers. The lessons that we got from there are basically that literacy remains a challenge in our communities. And if we could get more people, more organizations that could partner with us, collaborate, and help us get into those spaces or those places that in the Mogessikkel case, schools cannot get to, we can do great. So the Mogessikkel situation was we were given a group of children between the ages of 4 to 14 who are not going to school because of different challenges that they are facing. So in Mogosikal, there is Usis Nolufefe, who is using a shack and having literacy sessions with the children. So these literacy sessions vary because of the different ages that are in the space. So we went there, we spent the day there with the children. It was fun, and I feel like, I'll keep saying this, that 1 hour is not enough. Organizers, we need more time. However, it did spark that idea that we need to get to those places, you know, help those people that are, help Nolufefe, who's working with what she's doing what she can with what she has in Mogosikal, you know. They mentioned an experience that they had. They wanted to partake in the Nalibali competition that happens, you know, yearly, but they couldn't because they didn't have the resources. They couldn't get to Nolufefe, to the venue of this event. So if we could get stakeholders, you know, the Nelson Mandela University, the Nelson Mandela Foundation, more organizations, that is where the danger is, Amy. You know, if we could get more organizations to come and collaborate, you know, with people like us, you know, the literacy facilitators in the different spaces that we are in, that are working with children that cannot get to schools, that we are working with children that are in schools but really need that push, or that more of fun way to learn, like we said our approach is. If we could get more people to work with us, to partner with us, so that we can create, I see my picture is not here. There was a child who, we gave them paint, and it was their first time seeing paint. So we gave them paper to paint. That was one of the pictures. That's another one, and then that's me. They're putting up pictures as well. But there was one that caught all of us our attention, you know. This child got all the paint colors on one page. Unobomvu took all the paint colors, and she went and had fun with that, you know. To someone, it might look like a disaster, like her picture was a disaster, but what we reflected from it was, she got the opportunity, she was given options. And because this is something that rarely happens, she took everything and she used it. So, thank you.
Molweni. Ndana mandicimele then. And also belong sometimes. Greetings, comrades. I'm used to, when I'm gonna speak to people, to sing because later is gonna speak. But molweni maqabane. Salam alaikum. Shalom aleichem. I'm Zwoxolo Some. I'm the chairperson of Herald movement. We are a land-based movement. We stand with the poor, the oppressed, the marginalized, the landless. Do you hear me, comrades? Okay, it's like I'm a little bit shaking because speaking in front of the camera, I'm not usual. So, comrades, mine is to speak 2 or 3 points, go straight up it all and Falcon. I'm going to speak around the issue of water crisis. That was the instruction that I got. But a little bit, I want first to us to acknowledge the vital role that has been played by Nelson Mandela University students and the foundation also in assisting us to make sure that LDAB is moving forward and there is an improvement in Krisan. I'm from Krisan, Ikwanoboshe, where particularly we're facing day zero for the past 6 months. No accountability, no mayor, no councillor. We had to survive through all means of being supported by other areas that are much closer to Krisan. So it will be a problem if you don't have a relative to a closer area to a Krisan. So you need to fetch water somewhere else. But the intervention we've done, the strategies that we've pulled out, assisted by university students. It was much greater because we were able to shake in the municipality, were able to make sure that the officials of Umaspala hold them accountable to us. We've done all sorts of things, pickets, march, all those things. But through their interventions, we're able to move forward. At least there is a change. In fact, there's no at least, there is a change because these comrades helped us with human resources. So comrades, I'm coming from that background, from that kind of an area. So this thing of day zero, it's not new from us. Maybe from two other areas might be new, but we fought until the whole area today, through these interventions and assistance from the university students, today they are all having running water in their own taps. Last week, Friday, they were part of the walking. We're showing them how is Krisani is and what needs to be done in Krisani, because there's a lot that needs to be done. It has not yet been developed to a stage where there are useful resources, because majority of young children from there, and I put it, some of them, they want to go to school, they are drop out. So there are no resources to help young children there. So this foundation of Nelson Mandela and the university, they should come closer to such areas and try to find what can be the solution so that other young women and other young people, they can be developed through proper development or resources. So comrades, that's what we were facing in that area. So we're happy and that there is a running water in our area through these interventions. Lastly, we had also one of the officials from the municipality. After 6 months, he came and tell us and gave us some presentation. But that was not enough because there's still more we need to do. So your support going forward will be highly appreciated and will be needed more than we have ever thought, because it's a struggle that we need to fight. Although Comrade Nelson Mandela, may his soul rest in peace, also saying that aluta continua, those words are very true, because the revolution does not end there. It goes beyond and beyond. So, Amandla.
As part of our build-up to Nelson Mandela Day, today the Nelson Mandela Foundation, along with its partners, is in Mvezo, rooted in the methodology of the Transit Walk Dialogue, which centers communities' experiences as well as knowledge. Today, we focus on one of our pillars for Mandela Day, being the planting of indigenous and fruit trees. The theme for Mandela Day this year is the intersection between climate change and food security. As such, we've identified 3 cardinal pillars. The first is community and home-based gardens, understanding the need for members of the community to cultivate their own food in order to address the issue of food security. The second, the planting of indigenous and fruit trees. And of course, this highlights the intersection between climate change and food security, with a particular focus on fruit trees. The last pillar then looks at positive climate action. Having seen what happened in KwaZulu-Natal and here in the Eastern Cape, we understand that there is a need to take action and reduce our carbon footprint.
In this school, what we are trying to impart on learners is that strive to reach your full potential. but in doing so, never lose sight of where you're from. Always be anchored from where you're from and be of service in the environment you came from.
It is the Nelson Mandela Foundation's global core to ensure that because Madiba dedicated 67 years of his life serving humanity, we should be able, in honoring his legacy, to dedicate 67 minutes of our day doing good in the communities we live in.
We are very much privileged to be afforded an opportunity by Green Development Foundation, Nelson Mandela Foundation, and Nelson Mandela University. To us, it means a lot. We are also inspired by the theme that says, do what you can where you are. And the trees that we have planted today are the trees of hope. It is the hope that kept Madiba standing. It is the hope that contributed to his resilience, and he never gave up. So if we're planting the seeds of hope for this school, we are hopeful that all the challenges that we have expressed will come to an end. We are hopeful that it is through partnership with different stakeholders that have come to share our cries and challenges that we can prosper. And what inspires us most are the partners that have just come here. We are an agricultural school, so when we talk about Green Development Foundation, we talk about us. We are a school that have to produce academics because we're building leaders. So if Nelson Mandela University is here, and then over and above, Nelson Mandela Foundation is our legacy. So if we are connected with as three potential partners, I think we can go into bigger heights. So as a school, we're very happy.
The tagline for Mandela Day this year is do what you can with what you have where you are. And this speaks to different members of society at different levels. We're saying to individuals, plant where you can, whether it's a small patch in your garden or it's a bigger community garden. We're saying to corporate partners, support initiatives that speak towards combating the issue of food security by investing in community-based gardens. And we're saying to community-based organizations that are doing the work, continue to do the work as we try and support you on this journey. Today is the 18th of July, and we are in Zwide, in the Eastern Cape. We are marking Tata's birthday. And as we reflect on the day, where we took a transit walk dialogue through the community, we are reminded of the power of collaboration and co-creation. Our delegation walked through the community of Zwide, talking and discussing about the different issues that face the community. We started in Zamukukanya Primary School, where we planted trees within that area. We learned about the challenges that face the primary school and saw different ways in which we can band together to assist them. We then moved on to a public facility known as the swimming pool that is unfortunately not functional at the moment. We heard that the borehole has a number of problems and understood that the community would like to get that facility functional again. We moved on to home-based gardens, where we saw beautiful produce at the hands of members of the community of Zwide.
But there's no turning back. I think we have to stop, the kind of one-stop type of interventions that universities have grown accustomed to over many, many decades. That must stop. When we engage with communities, we work with communities, we walk with communities, we co-travel with communities. We must ensure sustainability of the work that we do. For that very reason, our university is reorienting itself to be socially embedded within our society, within our communities, so that these projects can take a life of its own, and develop sustainability matrices, that can last, very long into the future.
The foundation is indeed about creating partnerships, whether it's here or in other parts of the country, or with other countries in the world, with the United Nations and so on. So it is our job to create spaces for conversations, which is why we have our annual lecture, where we invite very important people who have influenced and have made a positive impact on the world to come in and speak to us and tell us what they think about the world today. And we are looking forward to Prime Minister Motley later this year, who was said to be one of the 10 important people in the world today, and we are so lucky to be able to get her to come and speak. So that's how I think that part of the heart of our job is opening those connections, creating conditions for dialogue, creating conditions to bring people together to speak and converse and share ideas.
We concluded our transit walk dialogue at this site, which is an eco garden that has been established by the Zwide Development Forum. We planted fruit and indigenous trees and also heard about some of the plans that the Zwide Development Forum has for this garden. Upon the conclusion of the transit walk dialogue, we sat to hear the thoughts and insights of the community.
Greetings to the Nelson Mandela Foundation and all present stakeholders today. My name is Ntutuzi Mkunu from ITLS Foundation in partnership with the NMF, Nelson Mandela Foundation, on food distribution in one of their programs called Each One, Feed One. We've got some information to share regarding the Nelson Mandela Foundation response to KZN floods and the relief that was offered in KZN.
Is there a relation between climate change and food security then? And if so, what is the relation?
The COVID-19 pandemic and climate change has had serious implications for the global economy, with food security and nutrition being particularly impacted throughout South Africa, including KZN, a region rich in agricultural produce. These factors were mainly driven by rising transports, food prices, and loss of crops. Due to the lockdown and natural disasters, bad weather, farmed produce could not be sold as community markets or at an urban area, and wasted away as it could not be stored for a long period of time, which impacted the livelihoods of small-scale farmers. This was further impacted by the high rise of food prices at local stores. And lastly, by loss of family income for those that lost their jobs due to companies shutting down due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
What can organizations or companies do to assist and improve their resilience towards such shocks?
Climate change will affect both food security and the livelihoods of those engaged in production systems and their value chains. Climate change also impacts agricultural production, supply chains, and pricing. Food access is linked to a stable food supply chain, which is heavily reliant on climate changes.
What is immediate relief? And what is IT Lab's role towards it?
By promoting good agricultural practices to increase incomes, practices such as crop rotation and drip irrigation, raise yields, decrease production cost, and increase gross margins. Implement adaptation methods that reduce loss risk from extreme weather events, promote technologies and practices that benefit a wide range of crops, and lastly, support research, development, and adoption of new innovative agri-tech solutions.
Why is immediate relief important? Is it as important as sustainable solutions such as the establishment of gardens?
Immediate relief is crucial as it means livelihood. People who are displaced and homeless cannot immediately benefit from gardens, which will only produce food after months. They need to feed and survive daily, and our immediate food relief addresses this issue, allowing beneficiaries to survive another day and have provision and sustenance for the rest of the month, which will keep them alive. So at this level, we need to change our thinking. We cannot look for miracles, but we can always look for progress. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gershwell Brooks. I'm the head of department for Mandela Day and public outreach at the Nelson Mandela Foundation. And yeah, thank you. I think it's an amazing opportunity to be able to obviously reflect on Mandela Day, the various transact walks that led us to this particular point, and sort of close off this particular period. But before we start that, first and foremost, I need to apologize on behalf of our Chief Executive Officer, that is, of course, Mr. Silo Atang. And it's a sincere apology. Would have loved to have been here today to participate in this, especially considering that many of you have taken the time and the opportunity to be here today to participate in this particular event. But unfortunately, he also has conflicting scheduling and other commitments. So as the head of department, the person that actually did the work around Mandela Day along with the rest of the team, I'm here representing him. So hopefully you will accept my representation for today. But I mean, apart from that, I think let's jump straight into the conversation that we're having today. And obviously we've heard from many speakers that the theme for today, or for Mandela Day in particular for this year, was do what you can with what you have where you are. And I think we really need to start thinking about what it is that we're talking about when we say do what you can with what you have where you are. Because many issues were raised, especially at community level, by many of the community leaders that we've seen and heard from today. We've heard about the water crisis that we're facing right now. And yes, it may be very specific to the Eastern Cape, but if I'm not mistaken, not too long ago, it was an issue in the Western Cape. And if I think back, Gauteng had its own water crisis. Maybe we didn't call it day zero, but we had a water crisis. And there were regulations put in place for how often you flush your toilet. There were regulations put in place for how you irrigate your garden. And I'm not talking about food garden. I'm talking about, let's call it your space at home. Apart from that, we spoke obviously about the issue of malnutrition and food security. And I always find this a very fascinating concept because as a country, South Africa is food secure. There's enough food to feed everyone. But on an individual and household basis, people are food insecure. So 1 in 4 South Africans are food insecure. And food insecurity in itself is not necessarily an issue about the quantity of food that you have, because that's what we immediately think about, right? Is there mealie meal? Is there baked beans? Is there cooking oil? Whatever. No. It's actually the quality of the food. Are you getting all the nutrients that you require? The micro and the macronutrients that will help you shape a mind and a body that is productive and healthy and good for society, and more importantly for yourself. And the issue about malnutrition is that it's far-reaching. We think it's about a rumbling tummy. But what it is about children who grow up without ever being able to completely meet their full physical and mental capacity and ability. Because they didn't have those macro and micronutrients that gave them the opportunity to reach their full potential. And inevitably, a lot of the other things that we were talking about, the socioeconomic challenges, Roger, that you made mention of, the unemployment, the economic inequality, the persistent poverty, it continues because, and another weird thing about living in South Africa is we're constantly hearing about a lack of skills, that we don't have enough people to employ with specific skills, but we also have a runaway effect when it comes to unemployment. How do the two meet? And the two sort of do not ever meet, and the two can't necessarily be dealt with, because how are you able to produce those skills? How are you able to produce and fill that skills gap if we're not feeding our children well enough so that they are able to become those skilled individuals to become the entrepreneurs and employ people that we require? The other issue is global climate change. I mean, we've discussed it now. What happened here, what happened in KwaZulu-Natal. I think it's been a conversation that's been had in spaces like these with air conditioning and, comfortable spaces, for lack of a better term. But I think it's not comfortable anymore because it's hitting us at home. It was a conversation that was really far removed from the vast majority, but it's definitely coming home when you see people in KwaZulu-Natal and the Eastern Cape going through what we went through in April and subsequent to that. Beyond that, we spoke about housing and human settlements. I mean, we can write an entire book about that. With increased urbanization, we see the expansion of informal settlements, and people not living in conditions that human beings should be living in. Let's call a spade a spade. And then socioeconomic challenges, which I've already made reference to. So there's many things that we need to deal with as a society. Of course, for the Nelson Mandela Foundation, what we did was we specifically focused on two areas, being global climate change and being food security. And that is why we have this really ambitious target of planting 1 million trees in the next year. We have less than a year left, about 11 to 10 months. And you saw me swallowing very deeply there because it just struck me how many trees we need to plant. But beyond that is to then roll out community and home-based gardens where people are able to increase. And so number one, we need to capacitate those gardens so that we can improve food security. But it doesn't just end with those particular gardens. I think the call to action is that when we go back to the notion of do what you can with what you have where you are, it's that corporates, civil society, faith-based organizations, communities, everyone plays a role in that we roll out these community gardens, that we roll out these home-based gardens, so that people have access to a basic fundamental human need that's probably the first on the list of things that we need, and that is food. And I think when we deal with the issue of global climate change, something to keep in mind is, and I'm happy I'm at a university, so I'm surrounded by many academics. And I think education and academia has taught us that this planet is about 4.6 billion years old. 4.6 billion years old. And there have been at least 5 major extinction events. So in other words, where more than 70% of all life on this planet died out. Completely. And then it basically had to restart. Human beings have been on this planet for about 200,000 years. The last 100 years is where we've had the biggest impact on this planet, in that we've seen a massive increase in global temperature. And that massive increase then translates to floods, translates to droughts, translates to massive increases in temperature, where people are dying because it's too hot outside. And Europe is going through that summer, or parts of Europe is going through that during their summer. The point that I'm making is that I think if we look at the history of this planet in the last 4.6 billion years, is that it doesn't actually need us. It's been around for 4.6 billion years. We've only been around for 200,000 years. And in the last 100 years, that's where we have had the biggest impact, and we're sort of sending ourselves in the same direction again. And we are going to be the ones that lose at the end of the day. As human beings, all of us, each one of us here. Because you can't grow food when it washes away due to floods. You can't grow food when it doesn't rain and it turns the soil into rock. So we need to then take action to make sure that we continue to survive. And again, it brings us back to the idea that we need long-term solutions, long-term sustainable solutions. 67 minutes is not enough. Corporates getting together on one day on the 18th of July, going out and painting a school, planting trees with us, that's not good enough. We need to do this on a day-to-day basis. And clearly, that's what's happening here. And more importantly, and this is the final point that I'm making, is that this gives us an opportunity to exchange knowledge. We're learning from each other. To some extent, I thought that this discussion, this dialogue was already held this morning, but lo and behold, we continued it because there was a massive debate, and a lot of that debate actually informed what we're discussing or reflected what we're discussing today. So yeah, thank you so much and all the best.
Thanks, Gajwal, and my apologies for not calling you onto the podium. VC, it is now your opportunity to make some respondent remarks, please. Yeah.
course, it's very tempting to overgraze what has already been said, but I'm not going to do that because I think the different contributions captured the day what we needed to hear. I was not here on Mandela Day, but I was here in spirit. So thank you very much for all the work that was done under the leadership on our part of Professor Kiet. I just want to start by, thank you. I just want to start quickly to just salute our partners, particularly the Herald, the Nelson Mandela Foundation, and all our partners that I actually met at in Gauteng when this campaign was launched, who are involved in the fight against food insecurity, who are driving issues of food sovereignty, and who are working against climate change. So all those organizations, I think they're going to be important for us because we are here for a long haul as the university. The inspiring theme of 2022 of Mandela Day, do what you can with what you have, where you are, has to be commended, as it is imperative. It shows us that it is imperative for anyone and for everyone and for all of us to rise to the call of service. It's not an option, as Professor Van Genen reminded us at the beginning. But this theme also, it aligns with our own intentions as a university that wants to be responsive to the prevailing conditions of the communities in which we are and in whose name we exist. Our posture as a university to engagement is decidedly equalizing. I'm sorry to say this because I say it all the time. It is an equalizing one, so that we come at relationships with our partners, with the communities that we work with. And I hope it has been the experience of our partners. We come to that relationship from a position of respect, in which we are open and in which we are prepared to be changed by the encounter, so that we enhance and expand our impact as the university, as knowledge workers. So the threats that are coming through are very encouraging to me. Particularly, there was, I'm not even going to mention each of the speakers. A threat is about the acknowledgement and the affirmation of partnership and of collaboration, that you cannot do anything on your own that is going to be lasting, that is going to be of impact. And also, the theme that is coming through is that as universities in particular, and as those entities that work with knowledge, we do not have all the solutions. We do not know everything. So we need to come from the position of hunger to know more from the communities, the native knowledge of the people that have always responded to their situation without needing universities. I think the theme of building for the future and the permanence of trees, I mean, that idiom is not lost to me, that the trees stand long after we're all gone. And I think that is very, very important. And I think the theme of agency came through very strongly from all the speakers, which I like, because it talks to the purpose of Mandela Day. And then we heard about the headman who started with 2 sheep, and then who now has 150 sheep. We heard about a girl that used all the opportunity that she got because it's a rare opportunity. So we heard about that people of impact always want to make a difference in their community. We heard from our colleague from Zwide. Actually, if you are in the township and then you do something like that, you are actually going against, you are swimming against the tide, because it's not easy to do that in the townships where we live. So doing good is not an option. And for me, just to conclude, Chair, before that thing goes off, I want to say that the university is going to continue to drive the socially engaged scholarship. As the university also, and I'm just mobilizing Professor Kiet's popular word about us being implicated. As the university, we feel that we are implicated in the social problems that our communities face, so we cannot walk away from them. That is why we have committed our university to be socially embedded, and then we also have turned, and I want to thank the academics in particular, because it was a brave proposition of this term, that we are going, Darrell, to turn our scholarship inside out, so that as the university, we become a vessel for change. And it is possible for every scholar in every field of science to do that, as we have seen with the scientists, including people like Professor Darrell van Groenen here. So I want to thank my colleagues, Bruce, yourselves in the Hubs of Convergence, Professor Kiet, and everyone, Center for Community Schools, and all our partners, all our communities that have allowed us, with nothing to offer but more to learn, to insert ourselves in their work, so that we drive change together. So I really want to thank again, if you can convey our gratitude to Mandela Foundation for generosity and how they've worked with us since the name change of our university, because we took the name Nelson Mandela University because we wanted to expand the responses that we can marshal as a university. Thank you.
So there is an award, and of course Roger is the first one getting it for doing 4 minutes and 37 seconds. And then our Vice Chancellor, you know, she still had 53 seconds to go when she closed. But colleagues, this is not what we're all about awarding people who stick to time. It should be natural in any case. This is amazing. I do think that there is a sense of a shift in the way in which we think the university, and in the way in which we open ourselves up to the knowledges resident within our communities, and of course, being a scholar when we engage with communities. But we still have some time for at least 3 to 4 questions to anybody that I have presented here. So please think about anybody who would like to engage with some of our contributors. So we've got you there, sir. Let me just see if there are more. There's another one there. Okay, Vuvu. So yeah, we've got the 3 questions. Please go first. We have 4. Pastor, you also? Right, there you are.
Program Director, distinguished panel, academia, parents, ladies and gentlemen, is it afternoon? Good afternoon all. Special greetings to my former English teacher, Professor van Groenen, way back in 1991 at Itembelihle. She can tell you how naughty was I during my schooling days. This topic today is very much both interesting and touching. Interesting in a sense that it revokes our conscience as to how far can we go helping each other as a society in this time around, regardless of our race, color, or creed. touching in a sense that it reminds me, founding fathers of Pan-Africanism, the late Marcus Garvey, the Kwame Nkrumahs, the Sekou Toure, you name them. I can see it, the first one that says, do what you can. The second one, it says, with what you have. For the mere fact that there's a name have, it means there are have-nots. In this case, the have-nots are us, not being racist, are us Africans. The have are whites, mainly of Western origin, who came to Africa more than 6 centuries ago. This to me means that for as long as the land issue is not given what I can say, a necessary time and a platform, it means that 10 years, 20 years to come, we'll be sitting like this because we are dealing with much societal issues that affects us. It affected our forefathers more than 5 centuries ago, and it will affect many generations to come. So, for our dignity to be restored, it means, among many things, the land issue is very thorough and it is a necessary call. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Please, there you go. But let's finish on this side first. Please keep it to 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Kanyiso Mende, and I'm a member of the Zulu Development Forum. I watched a very interesting exchange between one gentleman from, I think he was from forestry. He was talking to one lady from one of the houses we had identified for household gardens, talking about planting a tree. She was very adamant that she doesn't want a tree, and this gentleman was at pains explaining to her what the importance of the tree is. And her issue was that to have a tree in a township was a security risk, because criminals climb up on a tree very early in the morning when you go to work, they pounce on you. They do that in the evening. And they were speaking above each other. He was trying to explain how this tree will combat climate change and all of that. And she was looking at her survival in the immediate. So the lived experiences and the material conditions of the people on the ground do not speak to what we are trying to achieve. So I think what is important for each and every foundation in society and group in society, we must engage corporate, universities, and government so that they help the people on the ground. Because whatever we are trying to achieve will never be achieved if the socio-economic conditions of our people are not addressed. We may have a beautiful project with long-term goals, but people, because they are hungry today, they don't see the long-term vision. They will steal from the food that is here, which is supposed to help people to have future reserves. So I think what I want to challenge, and I think it has been said over and over again, that this work to try and address all these issues should not be an event thing. It should not happen once in a while, but it should be an everyday, journey. When you wake up in the morning, what can we do today to address this issue? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Just hang on for me, Vuvu. Can you move the mic so long in the meantime to the speaker on that side? No. Let Vuvu speak.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Vuyoka Zekwam. I'm a student researcher at Krishet here at Nelson Mandela University. I do agree that the time restriction in these platforms is a bit problematic, but also because my thoughts are all over, and yes. So the theme for today was... But
you will still remain at 2 minutes, Vuvu.
Yes, of course. So the theme for today was do what you can with what you have where you are. The youth criteria for South Africa is between the ages of 14, if not 15, to 34. And I think with this project specifically, there also needs to be an investment in smallholder farming to teach our youth how to farm in very small in our gardens, in our schools, and etc. Because I think that will assist us as an economy in our agriculture side. So I think with the employment levels, specifically at Gqeberha, they're at 39%, the rate of unemployment. So if the foundation can also start in investing in teaching the youth how to garden and also assist them and not only plant, I think that can also be a very great way to assist in youth unemployment. Thank you.
Thanks, Vuvu. Third award.
Thank you very much, Chair of the session. Greetings to the panel and all protocols observed. My name is Lula Mile. Yeah, let me just leave it there. But let me start with this comment and say, I believe that education or institutions of learning create a space of equality, or should. Why am I saying this? VC speaks of something very fundamental, that the institution in itself does not have all the knowledge to develop our society. And therefore, the kind of partners that they are establishing are critical for the development of our society. Now, do what you can with what you have where you are. I'm looking at the institution from a point of view of saying, what role does the university play in terms of advocating for a policy shift that speaks to access to land for our societies? A simple case, this university is based in a place called Summerstrand. The main campus is on the other side, and then you have your Missionville campus in the far right of our city. Now, if you look at the landscape, on this side of the fence, you will never see any so-called RDP house with all the accessible land and other whatever you might want to think of. But majority of the students that come to this campus are children coming from the furthest end of the city with the poorest communities. And then you go to the further side of the university in Mission.
Sir, you have a very interesting... No, the 2 minutes are up. So you have a very interesting point, so can you wrap it up, please?
Okay, no, I apologize, sir. So my point of departure was merely saying, when we analyze the statement, how does the university view itself as an advocacy for policy shift towards the achievement of all the objectives that have been highlighted here today? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. No, excuse me, Alan? Let the panel, you wanted to say something about Galingwe's book? Okay, please, quickly, Ellen, before I give to the contributors.
To the House on Tuesday at 5:30 at the South End Museum. We are speaking about the land issue. Prof. Mayende, the book is called The Land and the Agrarian Question. The first frontier of decolonization in the country. And Professor Lungisilin Sabeza is going to be the respondent. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. Right, of course, what one can call some different sets of curveballs here in the space. And I'm going to ask the contributors to take 1 minute each, if you would like, to do a response. Can I start with you? And then we'll come and then finish perhaps with the VC, right? Yeah, please. Colleagues, please keep it sharp. We're running way out of time.
Okay, from a literacy aspect, I'm just going to
touch on what Uputi said. I'm sorry I missed your name, but going back, Mr. Grootboom said, going back to what you have, most communities do not have. So what I would like is for, out of these partnerships, out of these conversations, out of these collaborations, that we bring that what they have to their disposal, so that we can work, we can co-create, and yes.
Thank you so much, Jabu.
Mine is the collaboration and the partnerships. I think as soon as people see the university invading the community or the townships, there's expectations. And being away for a longer period and not coming back to the communities, it brings questions. So we'll be having talk shows and not action. So I think we must try to create sort of goals, short, medium, and long term. Let us consult. Let's be there. We must be visible in the communities, not to just throw projects and move away. Thank you.
Thank you, Jabu. Center for Community School. Yanela?
I also just want to agree with Jabu, particularly with the inputs that have been given by the different stakeholders here, is that Mandela Day basically needs to be an ongoing program whose impact is assessed during the Mandela month. So we should not start programs during the Mandela month. We should be actually showcasing best practices that we have acquired with the collaboration and efforts of the community.
Yeah, thank you, Mzi. And then Roger. Can we just shift the mic to Roger in the meantime, Mzi?
Okay, no, nothing much to say, but I would like to support OCC there saying about there should be more investment in smallhold gardens, especially for young people. I think that is one of the ways to improve our socio-economic status as young people. And also, comrade there speaking about the land question. I think we also need the Mandela and the foundation to think critical, because we do need a policy shift in the land issue. Whilst the current government is playing hide and seek, but we need more thinking around it, so that we can build more schools, universities, and all other entities around our communities. And what I can say last is that universities must not be far away from communities, especially rural ones. They should be closer, because there is a need for universities and the foundation to be close. Not only Mandela, but all the universities, because some of us drop out at schools in our communities. They don't know what to do after that. After some grade 12, they don't know what to do. But so it will be much more helpful. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mzi. Apologies for that, Roger.
I want to respond to the issue of the infrastructure. We're all part of the struggle for land, but the little land that we have at our disposal, we must also use it to produce. Number two, there's who raised the issue of these small gardens. Yes, as you are correct, we want to use them as training institutions for the young people.
Thanks, Roger. Darrell?
Thank you. I'm going to be very brief and just say that we can sit here and make all these nice statements and talks, but if we don't take that to heart and remember that it is in our own hands, nothing will happen. Thanks.
Thanks, Darrell. Before I give to the two respondents, just also perhaps from my side, for us to imagine what is that what we think of having and not having, and the existing asset base in our communities are massive. Don't regard that as nothing. Okay, that would be to undermine the social and other capitals, survivalist modes of getting through life. That will undermine that. Actually, part of the things that we think of our university is to literally become a scholar at the feet of communities within those, what one can say, difficult conditions as well. But never let it enter our minds that there is something that is zero in our communities, okay? Because that is not true. Gashwal, can I give to you, and then to VC, and then to Bruce, okay?
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Professor Kiet, and thanks for that, Terrell. I mean, I can't help but completely agree with you, is that there is no such thing as that it's net zero or that there's a vacuum. There's a lot in terms of the exchange. And I think a lot of us are talking here in terms of the future. This is what we should be doing, not taking into account what is happening. On the 18th of July, when we were in Zweden, prior to that, or whether we were in Vezo on the 16th of July, prior to that, there was a lot of exchange of knowledge. So it's not an imposition by the foundation or an imposition by a university, but it's rather an exchange of knowledge between the community and these institutions, saying that these are the expertise that we have and knowledge, this is the expertise and knowledge you have, how do we coalesce that to build better opportunities? And exactly what you were saying, it's an educative process. It's not going to help us to come and throw some seeds in the ground and disappear. We need to learn from the community in turn learns from us, we critique each other, we debate, we work together towards something greater. And that is the opportunity that we have, that is what we are doing.
Thanks, Gashwal. VC?
Hey, Andre. I can't say it better. People know that I feel very strongly about the asset that is the community. And obviously, we have a lot more to learn as the university to be better at what we do, because we really go out, we have to try to go out with an intention to listen from a sitting position. And it's a big challenge for a university to do that. And I would like us to remain focused to respond to that challenge, because it is the only way the university can live out its intention to change the world as a socially embedded university.
Thank you, VC. Just the two matters that I think would require Bruce is the question around education studies and its connection to policy shifts with regard to geospatial distribution of learners and where the university is located. Of course, I put that back into the Faculty of Education and, of course, my own research chair, in university studies. So that is an area of work that we will engage with. And then the other one is that we should not be afraid of expectations, but regard it as one form of accountability in which people come back to that which we have promised, okay, and put the pressure on, okay? And that's exactly the kind of interface and dialogue that we would like to have with our partners. Bruce, the last word is to you. So thank you very much, colleagues.
Baie dankie, Prof. Kiet. My naam is Bruce Damens. Ek werk by Nelson Mandela Universiteit. En ek is van Shorterville, Forston. As my naaldstring. And I think as we start thinking about how do we really extend the work that we do, it's across all the areas in which we have an interest, and that's in all of society. My job is very simple, and it's been cut short by Pancho and his technology. We will review your quote after the session. But is to say a thank you very much for the month. A special thanks to the Herald. I think, Rochelle, in your absence, just for embracing the university in helping us almost rewrite the narrative of hope as we co-construct and move forward as an institution, and we really appreciate your partnership. The foundation, Gashwal, I pronounce your name 20 different times, but you're so gracious in just smiling. Thank you so much that you also, as a foundation, embracing the 3 core principles of the Reimagine approach that the VC speaks about, of us working almost from a sitting position, listening and working, that of convergence, coming together and really talking critically and embracing all the voices. Reciprocity, there's such richness in the sharing of knowledge. And then the multiple forms of output, that it's not only about the academic project when we engage, it's about what we are directed to by our communities that we engage with, both internally and externally. So thank you very much. To all the people that have presented, I won't go through the names. Thank you very, very much. To the colleagues of the leads of the Transex walks. There was organization behind the scene. Thank you so much for the planning, the effort, and the facilitation. And I think, gosh, well, that's where the richness was. It was in those talks. It was in the debates. Prof. Kiet. It was in the church, in Chris Hani, Mzi, Lula Mile, Moelman from the municipality. We had to meet in the church in order to deal with the water crisis in our metro. So we have an interest to fix the very municipality that you lead as well. And we're glad you are here today. I taught him, I also taught English he was in Standard 7. My learner is now a director that's quite passionate about change, and he has fantastic ideas around women that he's planning for our metro as well. So thank you so much for committing, by asking the question, to committing to partner us through your directorate, and we hope you've underspent so we can use the rest of the budget for these programs that are left. We also want to thank the various faculties within the department, within the university. We see when we speak of Vision 2030, we speak of the transversal, transdisciplinary collaboration, but we're looking at, as you insist, at demonstration. And I think there was fantastic demonstration across the board here in giving life to what we have seen. But a special word of appreciation must go to our marketing and comms department, both at the foundation as well as the university, really, for putting together fantastic final pieces of presentation. And then Darrell confirming that I'm not woke, that I don't understand. I'm live streaming for the first time today. I thought I'll get my 10 minutes of fame, and that was cut short. But a deep appreciation for those colleagues for really immersing themselves in some complex type of relationships that we have to develop. But I think it's also true to our purpose to ensure that we're going nowhere, that we're going to be rooted and joined to the hip as we push this agenda. And so the big question is, where to from here? And so for the next 3 days, we will be sitting and writing all these experiences. It will come out in the form of a report and a form of templating that can be shared and used not only by the foundation, but by the university as a form of documentation on how things will be done. And the participants in that writing will be everyone that participated across the few days. So those voices will be captured in those reports. And then we must emphasize that this, as a university, and I struggle with some words still, but it's a form of experimentation of what is this reimagination that we're constantly speaking about. And so these templates that will emerge from Zwede, for example, how is it possible that you mobilize 100 community members from across generations to manage security at an international day and not have one incident? How is that possible? And you do it as a form of community mobilization. How do we take that to the northern areas? How do we take that learning and learn with our communities in the northern areas as we think of the next days and other activities that will go into the different areas, to Kariga, to wherever, to Kala, to Mvezo, to Amajingi? How do we lift these blueprints, these frameworks into those particular areas? And that writing is going to help us think about that. These are Amy's notes, but they sound nonsense. I blame her. If they're great, they're mine. And Amy here states here that in Fundisi the work actually starts today. the work starts today. There's another colleague that said the talk is actually also the work. Never forget that. But we recognize again that the actual work of change and dealing with some of the tougher questions is what we need to do moving forward from here. Therefore, we intentionally challenged, or the foundation challenged us, that we have to start thinking of Mandela Day more around a longer term project rather than just a moment of the 18th of July. And I think as Nelson Mandela University, we did a fantastic job in learning with you, sir, what that could look like even for our own programmatic work. And therefore, our sincere appreciation. And then the last contribution then is just say that there are refreshments at the end, and we hope there'll be some engagement amongst the participants as well. And I hand over now to Gashwal, who would like to just do 2 handovers on behalf of the foundation.
Thanks. I didn't think I was going to take the mic again. But this is just a token of appreciation, both to the Vice-Chancellor as well as the Deputy Vice-Chancellor. Thank you so much. And this is from the foundation. This is, of course, for you, Professor. Thank you so much. This is for Professor Mutwa as the Vice-Chancellor, and for you as the Deputy Vice-Chancellor, Professor Kiet. Thank you so much.